listening to the Video Game and Nerd Trivia Podcast with Tony D. Video Game and Nerd Trivia Podcast, your episodic dose of trivia covering all things video games and nerdy. Now, here's your host, Tony D.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Video Game and Nerd Trivia Podcast. I'm your host Tony, and today we're going to go through another full episode of 3 rounds of trivia, in which each round is 10 questions. Today's topic is going to be video game crossovers, and what I mean by this is it could be a video game in which it's pitting up 2 different companies, or it could be a video game that has a cameo from a different company character. If this is your first time, how it works is I'll ask you a question, give you 5 seconds of silence, and then I'll tell you the answer. Alright, let's play. Round 1. Question 1. This game featured Apocalypse as the final boss in a giant form. This is X-Men vs. Street Fighter. Question 2. This game pitted the likes of Terry Bogard and Rock Howard against Ryu and Ken. This is Capcom vs. SNK. Question 3. This fighting game series evolved from 2D to 2.5D and went from 2 fighter tag teams to 3 fighter tag teams with characters like Deadpool and Guile. This is the Marvel vs. Capcom series. Question 4. This fighting game was based on the Street Fighter 4 engine, but featured characters like Yoshimitsu and Kazuya in addition to the Street Fighter characters. This was Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Question 5. This is an action RPG that features the same kind of characters as the previous game. This is Namco Cross Capcom. Question 6. This game pitted a fast furry creature against a plumber in highly competitive sports. This is Mario and Sonic at the Olympics. Question 7. This fighting game series started on the N64 and features crossovers from all of Nintendo's different franchises. This is, of course, the Super Smash Bros. Series. Question 8. This beat-em-up from the NES era featured anthropomorphic amphibians teaming up with martial arts brothers. This is Battletoads Double Dragon. Question 9. This game featured insane bunnies and the cast of Mario in an XCOM-like gameplay. This is Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. And question 10. This fighting game series started off as a crossover of Fatal Fury, Ikari Warriors, Art of Fighting, and those kind of games. This is the King of Fighters. Alright, that was the intro round, so let's go to round 2. This is a little bit more difficult, but let's see how you do. Question 1. This weapon-wielding game had Spawn as a guest character in the Xbox version, while Link was the guest character in the GameCube version. This is Soul Calibur 2. Question 2. This mobile runner game, featuring a fast blue furry creature, included guest appearances from Hello Kitty and Pac-Man. This is Sonic Dash. Question 3. This version of the weapon-wielding fighting game featured Geralt from the Witcher series. This would be Soul Calibur 6. Question 4. This game was a fighting game that pitted characters like Ryu and Ken against characters from different animes like Gatchaman. This is Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. Question 5. This extreme sports skateboarding game franchise had many guest characters over the years, including Spider-Man, Darth Maul, and Jango Fett. Of course, that was the Neversoft series Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Question 6. This DC fighting game featured guest appearances by the Ninja Turtles, Hellboy, Sub-Zero, and Raiden from Mortal Kombat. This is Injustice 2. Question 7. This popular online battle royale and building game has featured too many guest characters to even name. But some of them are John Wick, some of them are from Marvel like Thanos, and even Nicki Minaj. This is of course Fortnite. Question 8. This hybrid vehicle sports online game featured guest vehicles like the DeLorean from Back to the Future, the Batmobile, and Dom's car from Fast and Furious. This is Rocket League. Question 9. This game is a combination of Tetris and Puyo Puyo. This game is simply just called Puyo Puyo Tetris. And question 10. This specific fantasy puzzle game version had its entire visual design based on a Nintendo mascot franchise. This is Puzzles and Dragons Super Mario Edition. Alright, round 2 did have some kind of difficult ones there. Hopefully you got them. If not, hopefully you learned something. And let's go to round 3. Question 1. This handheld game was an interesting mix of puzzle exploration and legal adventure, based on 2 handheld franchises, one known for puzzle exploration and the other known for legal adventures. I had no idea that this game existed until I started writing the trivia questions for this, but it's Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. What the heck? Who thought to combine those two? But yeah, it exists, guys. Alright, question 2. Released in 1996 by Acclaim, this game had Marvel's Metal Hero and Valiant Comics counterpart team up in a side-scrolling beat-em-up. This one, it's Iron Man and XO Man-O-War in heavy metal. Little story about this. This is one of my first PC games, I think, as a kid. I saw the cover of it at a swap meet, and I asked my dad to get it for me. And I remember fondly how bad the game was, but I didn't really know. I just thought it was cool. Like Iron Man, I didn't know who he was, but he looked cool. XO Man-O-War, I didn't know who he was. I still don't really know who he is, but he's a Valiant comic character. So it was a crossover between Marvel and Valiant. And the game was, and probably still is, very bad. Question 3. This racing game was a crossover between 2 big game franchises at the time that focused on all-terrain vehicles. This was MX vs ATV. Never really thought they would make a crossover between those two, but yeah, it happened. Question 4. This is a fighting game that introduced the idea of heroic brutalities in place of fatalities for certain characters. Yeah, so this is Mortal Kombat vs DC Universe. This was the first foray for NetherRealm to go into the whole DC Universe era before they actually did Injustice. It wasn't that great of a game, and they made it PG-13 because it included DC characters. And for the superheroes, they didn't give them fatalities. They gave them really, really toned down heroic brutalities, which is just for example, for Superman, you just punched the person halfway into the floor and that was it. Question 5. This ninja hack and slash game by Tecmo Koei featured a skin of Beck from Mighty No. 9. This one was Ninja Gaiden Z. Question 6. This creature-seeking game featured DLC that let you play as Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, and it also had DLC that let you play as Geralt from The Witcher. This was Monster Hunter World. Question 7. This action RPG featured characters from Sega, Capcom, and Namco. This one was Project Cross Zone. Question 8. This game featured many mini-games based on those Disney plush toys that fit in the size of your hand, and Pac-Man made a crossover appearance. This was Disney Zoom Zoom Festival. Question 9. This multiplayer survival horror game features killers and slashers from many iconic horror franchises like Nightmare on Elm Street, Evil Dead, and many more. This is Dead by Daylight. And finally, the last question, question 10. This fighting game was developed by Blue Mammoth, which was acquired by Ubisoft, and featured melee-style combat and gameplay, and was free to play. Each character is called a legend, and there are 59 characters total, with many crossover characters from different franchises. So this is Brawlhalla, and I can't believe it's still going on right now, and they have like really crazy crossover characters like The Rock, Undertaker, a bunch of WWE characters actually, and then there was Hellboy, there's characters from Adventure Time, there's Lara Croft, there's Ryu, Chun-Li, there was just so many different characters. So that was pretty cool that they were able to get them. Alright, so that was the end of the episode. How'd you do? Did you do well? I had a lot of fun actually writing this episode as well. It sounds like I have a lot of fun writing all the episodes, but I do. And it's because I think of a game or think of a topic and I'm like, oh, maybe I can do a full episode about this. And as I run out of things from my own memory, then I start learning more by looking things up, and it's just so cool. I didn't know there were this many video game crossovers. But yeah, that's the end of the episode, and if you liked our episode, please rate us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, anywhere you're listening to this podcast. It really helps us out. It really helps people out there discover the podcast. And again, I really encourage you guys to, if you want to suggest a topic, please send us a message. We're on Twitter, or, it's called X now, and our handle is VGNT Podcast. We're also on Instagram at VGNT Podcast 1. We also have a website, VGNTpodcast.com. So yeah, feel free to reach out. And until next time, trivia on.